Hi everyone, I'm Miriam Macri and I come from Italy, from the south of Italy in particular. Well, I work from English and German and also Spanish sometimes into Italian. And I'm a translator, interpreter, and copywriter. Thanks to ProZ, I got a lot of benefits. Networking with colleagues, but also I got also the possibility to do mentoring meetings with young people who are trying now to approach the market. I love the blue board in ProZ because it gives you the possibility to check if the possible leads are suggested or not loyal at all. Well, I think that ProZ also gives you the possibility to do a lot of things. Invoicing, for example, but also finding for new job opportunities and new customers. I got different customers thanks to ProZ, and I'm still collaborating with them. I'm specialized in business, automotive, tourism, and more. Well, I suggest to everyone to join the ProZ network because I think that this is a good opportunity to grow for you both personally and professionally. Even because ProZ gives you a lot of tools that of course can just improve the quality of your translation services, but also not just translation services, but language services in general. So I hope you can join our network and see you soon. Bye.
Hello, my name is Adrian. I'm a German translator from Switzerland, currently working with a beautiful view in Hungary, in the countryside. I am a long-time ProZ member already for many, many years. Especially in the beginning, it really helped me out immensely to get my career going. Nowadays, I don't spend that much time on the platform itself, but I still do benefit from especially three benefits massively. Number one being paid members get ranked higher in search than non-paying members, which means a lot of people contact me through the website and I can then see if this is actually beneficial for me or not. Number two is invoicing. I use their invoicing tool every month. Beginning of the month, I write my invoices with ProZ invoicing tool. It's perfect. I feel like it's tailored towards translators and I use it every month. And number three are the training resources. For the membership price that you pay anyways, you also get great resource for training, for especially in the beginning when you don't have that much work yet. You can really spend a lot of time on there and just do all the trainings, all the courses for free, basically included in the price. And also if you're a seasoned professional, there's always something, workshops, webinars, interesting things happening. So these three things are the main reason why I really enjoy paying for ProZ membership. And I think it's great for any translator out there, so highly recommend it.
Hi, I'm Romina Escarihuela, an English, Portuguese, and Spanish conference interpreter born and based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I guess I've been a ProZ member for more than 10 years now, and it's a real pleasure for me to be part of this community. And if you are thinking about investing in this platform, I really encourage you to do so. When I started working as an interpreter, I decided to join first because I've got lots of resources with the glossaries and the queries that I could do and the questions that I could submit to the community. At that time, 10 years ago, I was working mostly as a translator, so it was wonderful to get more experience in working with ProZ at the time. And then I hit one of my most important interpreting clients through ProZ back in 2015, I guess. It was a multinational company that was looking for medical interpreters in the language combination of English and Portuguese in Buenos Aires, something that's very hard to find here. And well, I've been working for them ever since, now also remotely, not only in on-site events. And besides getting this wonderful client, I I had the chance of meeting other colleagues who were looking, for other translators to build up a team. And those colleagues happen to be here in Buenos Aires as well. So it was a wonderful way of meeting other colleagues and start a new business relationship and getting a larger and larger network every day. So I really encourage you to do so. So, well, thank you very much for listening to my testimonial, and I hope to have encouraged you. And in case of any doubts, you can contact me directly. Cheers!
So sorry for that. Now I'm unmuted. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. At today's TV event, we celebrate ProZ Pro second anniversary with an interview. In this interview, we have Tanya Program Manager, Andrew Morris, ProZ Pro Program Director, and Henry Duttard, President and founder of ProZ.com. We'll first have a short video explaining about ProZ Pro Bono in case you don't know about it, and later the interview. After the interview, we'll be back with the live Q&A session with the three of them for any question you may have. So, if you're new to this kind of TV events, you will notice that there is a chat box in your right part of your screen. So please feel free to share any questions or comments you may have. For those who may be asking, this TV event is being recorded and you will be provided with it once we finish. So, without further ado, please enjoy the event. So, give me 1 second and enjoy it.
Are you a translator looking to make a difference? You've come to the right place. Join the ProZ Pro Bono Voluntary Translation Program and unlock a world of purpose, connection, and professional growth.
Contribute to work that truly matters, that brings about change in the lives of real people. Connect with a vibrant community of like-minded professionals.
Gain invaluable experience in diverse humanitarian fields. Work collaboratively with fellow translators to ensure quality.
Sharpen your awareness of translation skills through peer review on all texts and access a range of training courses to boost your expertise.
Get credit for your efforts wherever possible, on books, films, and all published materials. Don't just translate, transform lives while transforming your career.
Calling all nonprofits. Need quality translations, but working on a tight budget? We've got you covered with our Pro Bono translation service.
Receive 100% free, high-quality translations that let you channel your vital resources towards the people who need them most. Benefit from professional standard work by skilled and committed volunteers.
Prompt and reliable delivery with reasonable deadlines, tailored to your needs wherever possible.
And transparent, efficient, and rapid communication with the program team throughout the process.
Don't let language barriers hold you back. Let us help amplify your impact, whether locally, nationally, or globally.
Together, we're building language bridges and helping bring about a better world. Reach out to us today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special interview with Henry Dotter, President of ProZ.com, and Tanya Quintieri, soon to be a board member of ProZ Pro Bono. And we're here today to celebrate 2 years to the day almost. It was September the 1st, which was a Sunday, of the existence of ProZ Pro Bono. And I brought together Henry, obviously, whose idea it was in the first place, and Tanya, who's a long-standing colleague of mine, somebody who's followed the project from the beginning and has also been a long-standing observer and commentator on being a freelance, being a translator, and everything to do with the language industry. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so Henry, let's begin with you. I know that you had previous, as they say, so you had an experience with starting off with Translators Without Borders way, way back. What was your vision this time when you came back to want to relaunch ProZ Pro Bono? What was your dream that day that you kind of reached out and said, I'd like you to do this? What were you hoping for? And to what extent has the reality met that vision?
Yeah, so in fact, the ProZ experience with pro bono work, volunteer work, goes back almost to the beginning of ProZ. It's almost 25 years now. And yeah, there's always been people willing to use their skills to give back, willing and interested in using their skills to give back. There have been, since the beginning, almost the beginning, nonprofit organizations that have, we've encountered recruiting linguists. And so, ProZ is a matching type of business, if you want to call it, operation. Yeah, it was just obvious that there was an opportunity to give these worthy causes, or causes considered worthy by our members, and our members willing to do pro bono work, an opportunity and a platform to meet on. So when we do that, when we give that opportunity and platform, there's a lot of benefits to the ecosystem. So let's say a student that's just graduated, maybe not confident that they can offer themselves on a freelance basis commercially, for them to get an opportunity to volunteer. For the experienced linguist who wants to give back, use their skills to do something other than translate the next, mundane document. For people to get experience working with colleagues, organizational experience, let's say project management, these sort of things. So it's always been a great, fodder for development and fulfillment and all these things. So, when we had the cooperation with Translators Without Borders, that was great because there were a lot of interesting projects coming in. When they sort of moved in a different direction and we stopped cooperating, that left a gap in our ecosystem. People, someone registers and goes, there's nothing on right now for my niche. Is there anything I could do? I'm willing to volunteer. And so, I was looking at the pro bono program from that point of view. Let's consciously, focus on this and focus on matching in the pro bono space. And so, with you available to do that, I thought this will be fun. This will be interesting. And yeah, it's exceeded by far my expectations in terms of but I think it all derives from your own personal motivations, Andrew, and I think the tremendous goodwill among the community and human beings in general. So I'm very happy with the program and how it's coming along. And thank you for your tremendous talent in leading this.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know exactly what it is I do, but that's between me and my coach. Anyway, it seems to be working, and that's the main thing. So, Tanya, let's turn to you. You've been, like I said, an interested observer from the beginning. We've worked closely together with Translation Mastermind, for example, which is also a ProZ initiative over the years. So, what do you think is attractive about the program from the outside, and what has it motivated you in a way to want to join the board this autumn, or this fall, I should say, for you guys?
This fall, yeah. That's a good question. For one, I'm always interested in people's intrinsic motivations, because I think that's what drives our societies in many, many aspects. Where you have on one side many freelancers complaining about, prices or fees that clients are willing to pay, and amounts of work and technology taking space in our industry. And then you have the pro bono volunteers, and they just give, in a sense that they're helping and they're not getting any monetary return on their time investment, right? But precisely because we're taking money out of the equation, it just highlights all other aspects of working in big teams. And, they get to broaden their horizon for free, basically, right? If we go back to the money question. They get to know great initiatives. They get to experience what it's like working with corporate structures, even if they are nonprofit. And that ties in with my background in mentoring. Just like you, I'm always keen to help people get to that next step in their development. And I think working for pro bono just adds into that entire mentoring mix and is a great practice.
Sure. And I'm aware, I think all the volunteers are aware how much they get out of it. But at the same time, I'm constantly overawed by the amount of time people put into it. And we're talking not only about people, who've got affluent backgrounds in the West, we're talking about people in Afghanistan, in Somalia, in Ethiopia. I mean, one of our top Dari Afghan language translators is himself a refugee in Kazakhstan, or is it Uzbekistan, where he doesn't speak Russian, or Uzbek, or is it Kazakh, and is there with family. So people, facing quite tremendous difficulties, and yet giving time freely with no apparent, hidden motive. They're simply doing it because they want to be part of this program. And that's not to mention all the people doing ancillary roles like the social media crew, the video editor, putting hours into this with the same professionalism as they would if they were being paid, a good salary. So I'm always impressed by that. So Henry, how do you think that how do you see the alignment between pro bono and the overall mission of ProZ.com?
That's a good question. Our mission is to, we help translators and language industry professionals to achieve their business objectives. And I guess if we take business off of it, achieve their objectives. So I've always enjoyed, ProZ as a vehicle for empowering people, and people that want to do good in the world, or what they consider good. Again, by using their skills on a pro bono basis to assist in communication. I just, on a personal level, that's very fulfilling. I love doing that. And to see it come together in the way you're talking about, Andrew, with people from all over the world, sometimes in difficult situations, just collaborating with money out of the equation, Tanya. It's fun, it's refreshing. I'm as a technical person, it's kind of cool, because people welcome efficiencies, and it takes the money and the politics out of it, maybe. And it just gets down to how do we convey these words effectively and efficiently. And I guess I like it. The engineer in me likes that opportunity. And for the business, I suppose, I like the idea. I don't know if it's really happening. I like the idea, I think it is, that this deal between ProZ and ProZ Pro Bono, where obviously it's the ProZ income, which is membership income, that pays for the pro bono department, and in exchange, the ProZ Pro Bono is such a good sort of representative to the world of that community. ProZ is really an industry site, so it's usually an agency dealing with a freelancer, and we don't so much reach the layperson. But in pro bono, we're going to the end clients, and you're mentioning, hey, by the way, this comes from ProZ.com, the world's largest translator community. If that's bringing commercial clients to the members who are funding it all, well, that's going to work out too. So there's a lot of ways in which I like it, and it feels great, and it feels fun, and I'm proud of it.
That's great. So Tanya, as a freelancer, if you put yourself back in my position 2 years ago, if somebody had asked you to do this, what do you think looking back, what do you think have been the biggest challenges in taking it from zero to where it is now? if somebody had asked you, okay, you have to start this with a sheet of blank paper, what would you have anticipated to be those challenges?
Probably reaching the necessary translators because, well, my own personal network isn't that huge beyond the Western Hemisphere. That, and then of course getting actual projects in. I know you call them clients, and I think that's cool. But actually getting in those projects and bearing the responsibility, like putting a Q&A system in place, and ensuring that just because it's free, that doesn't mean that the quality isn't just as good as if it were paid, right? And I think, yeah, putting all those parts together to make it work.
Absolutely. It's also coming back to one thing we were talking about earlier in terms of the benefits that we get out. I would say it's actually changed my view of human nature over the last couple of years. That when you are leading, like I was, the group on Facebook, lovely group of people, but inevitably with a group of 80,000 people, you've got those who are positive, those who are negative, and often the ones who are negative shout louder than the ones who are positive. And you can end up at the end of the day feeling a little bit spent, a little bit kind of doubting about what is this thing we're all kind of doing together. Can these people work together to do something positive, or are they at each other's throats? And most of the time we manage to keep that kind of discipline there, but you can never quite escape the feeling that if you turned your back and left them in a room, there might be some kind of warfare breaking out at times, because people are naturally putting each other down, and they learned to play the game as part of a group. But when I come to this group and I see their community and the way that they chat together, it actually does restore quite a lot of faith for me, because these are people who are constantly helping each other. Just today, we had somebody asking, I'm just doing my first Spanish translation for an NGO. I'd like somebody from the Spanish community, Spanish-speaking community, to help me out. And people just jumping to help them. That itself was a pro bono job that they were doing, but a pro bono job outside, something they'd picked up before and brought to our community. And people were volunteering to help each other. And touch wood, so far in 2 years, I haven't seen a single skirmish or even particularly a disagreement between the people. They just, I don't know, I've begun to formulate a theory that people who volunteer, and I know, Henry, you won't want to talk about this, but you're a volunteer in many respects in your own personal life within your city. I think the people who volunteer, I'd go as far as to say that they're generally nice people. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Henry?
Well, I think also, yeah, of course. And I think also it's different when you're doing something you love. And if you didn't love it, you wouldn't be doing it on a volunteer basis. So, the best always comes out in people when they're really passionate about something. And it's really, you said they're doing as good a job as they would in the commercial. I think they might be doing a better job because it's like, this is a labor of love now. And I think that's always going to be better.
Yeah. And I've seen people investing a huge amount of personal pride. And one of the key things, Tanya, you mentioned a quality assurance approach. We set that up at the beginning because we didn't want to come a cropper. We didn't want to deliver something and have an NGO turn around to us and say, that's not really good enough. But in fact, what started off as a bare minimum, which was just, we will have somebody check the work of every translator, has evolved into a real mentorship thing, where we've got translators and reviewers often working together, getting to know each other's styles. And I get to see most of the time the interchange between them, because I like to be copied into the handover messages where the translator will say, here's my work. And especially with the reviewer will say, well, I've had a look at this and it's great in many respects, but you could think about this and this and this. And people go to quite tremendous lengths to give each other really constructive feedback. And so I think that rather than just being a checklist, yeah, there are no mistakes, it's safe to go on to the client, this is actually turned into something quite unique, whereby people, it's really developmental for all the members to be part of this. So they get really quality feedback on their work, which, as you know, the agency world very rarely has time to give. So have you seen, I was going to ask you, Tanya, anything else which, again, from your vantage point, just outside until now, and soon to be very much on the inside, that makes this different from other programs that you've come across or other communities?
To be honest, I've never really had a deeper look at these kinds of initiatives because I gave back in other ways. But what really strikes me is that, I'm really big into like business development and coaching freelancers to what I don't coach, or I mentor freelancers in a way that they get that self-confidence, of meeting the client eye to eye and everything. And I just had to smile because, again, it's because you take the money out of the equation. And if you talk to a regular freelancer working on regular, marketing themselves and getting into jobs and everything, one of the first things I always say to them is, stop thinking about the money, stop thinking about the price per word. That's not the value that's on the table for the client, right? So the same concept, you can take that back to your work, right? As a volunteer, you take it back to your paid work, and you apply that same passion and that same focus on the results and everything, and you don't focus on the money, then the money thing sorts itself out almost always, right? So yeah, again, I just think it's a great springboard, if you will, to making a change not only in the lives of the people that you affect through your work, for the NGOs and everything, but also to your own life, because you can learn so much from taking money out of the equation. But that needs to be practiced.
Yes. And it's always been part of this that we can never promise paid work to anyone based on their pro bono, but you can bet your bottom dollar that if somebody comes to me and says, have you got somebody for Dari or for Lithuanian or for Turkish? And yeah, we've got people who've been tried and tested over the years now, and have consistently given their best. And we've had a couple of instances where clients have said, actually, this job is urgent and it's a paid job. And in that case, I've said, I don't want to know about that. Here's the client's name. Here's the translator's name. Talk to them and see what happens. And I know that it's worked out on a couple of occasions for that reason. So, coming back to that idea of cash free, why was it so important for you, Henry, to have this as 100% cash free initiative? What would be wrong? And I agree with you, to put my cards on the table, but what would have been wrong with saying, we'll do this for 25% of the normal fee in principle?
Because you get all that, everything that comes along with that, like Tanya says, all the baggage. And, I just know, like, kudos. People have been helping each other with tough terms millions of times over 25 years. Nobody's made a penny. The participant hasn't made a penny. ProZ hasn't made a penny. There's nothing about kudos that drives membership. People come and they connect in community and stuff. And of course, many become members having encountered kudos first. But yeah, it's just, I already know people are willing and interested in doing this without the baggage. And the other thing is, I don't like doing what everybody else does. And, Translators Without Borders was doing it that way. I think that was Lori Thicke's vision. And, I saw Lori operating that way. So she came to us, and she's, there was one of the disasters. I forget what it was. Was it Haiti? I don't know. There was a need, they had a lot of translation demand. They needed a bunch of people. Could you help? And we helped. And then she's like, okay, now can you give us a platform for filtering through them? At the end of the day, we spent like $500,000 building a platform for, recruiting, vetting, managing these volunteers. And so here we are doing that, and so many other people in the industry doing that. And I don't know, it's fun. It's fun. And nobody was doing it anymore. So I said, okay, let's bring that back so that the people that want to do it that way, the cashless ecosystem, I guess, can do that. And as long as we can. I mean, I like to add the proviso, hey, look, we'll do it as long as we can. That's what I used to say to Lori. And she'd say, but you're doing this, and we'll do it as long as we can, And thank God, we've been able to do it up till now. And as long as we can, we'll keep doing it. And when we can't, sorry, we can't. Maybe someone else picks it up,
Well, exactly. And in the meantime, we're making moves to explore diverse sources of funding so that it's not just one person or one company that has to bear all the burden. But staying on the theme of cash free, which I totally endorse, because I think even a 5% charge, even a 1% charge would somehow sully, like a drop of food coloring into a bucket of clear water. Often, Tanya, you'll have come across in the freelance space the argument very stridently made that nobody should work for free, giving away work for free.
Of
And I
course,
know that this back in the day was levied at people, well, at Translators Without Borders and at any translators who were kind of foolish enough, in the words of some polemicists, to do that work. So what would you argue is the benefit, apart from, you're gaining experience or gaining exposure, what would you say is the intrinsic benefit of being a volunteer in this or any other capacity?
well, there's this saying that people who give, they sleep better at night than those who take. I mean, why do people go to animal shelters and take puppies for a walk? Or why do people operate in soup kitchens on Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatnot? We have to live, yes, for that we need to make money. But on the other hand, and that's what I meant with the intrinsic motivation, right? Like, I could not imagine living a life without giving back. And I think if anybody, looks at themselves and what they do in 24 hours in a day, I'm sure that most people will find something where they're giving back in one way or another. In this case, it just happens to be translators who are applying their skills to very much needed scenarios. We all know how important communication is and how important it is to speak to people in their language, especially when they're like in dire situations, right? You don't want to think about, I mean, I stayed in Germany back when I gave birth to my daughter, although I already lived in the Czech Republic, but for giving birth, I went back to Germany because I didn't want to deal with not understanding the language while I was in labor, right? Now think of being in a war situation or being in a horrible humanitarian crisis or whatever. I don't think that ProZ Pro Bono should justify that in any, or have to justify that in any way, because I think, we're all human, and at the end of the day, we all give back sooner or later. This is just the more organized way, and one that happens
I want to say too,
people
so
become better translators.
if I can, I mean, so we don't appear or get holier than thou,
No.
I want to say, I really respect, not that you are, maybe that I was, but I really respect Translators Without Borders. I think they're clear global now, and I don't begrudge them, for what they wanted to accomplish. I think it does make sense, to not be cashless anymore. That's a fine decision. I just know there's that market out there that needs, what you see in the legal field of pro bono work. I mean, there are people that need legal representation. They don't have any money, and that's just the end of it. So, so like when I was at the Neighborhood Resilience Project in Pittsburgh, and they're showing me they got a 5-story building. Every professional on every floor is free. They got a medical clinic, doctors coming in working for free, dentists coming in working for free, equipment donated for free, everything free. And they said, and they didn't know who I am. I'm just in there through other, groups. And they said, the one thing we pay for is translation. And I was like, maybe I can help you there. And it's so proud and happy to have you, Andrew, to go, yeah, talk to Andrew Morris. He runs our pro bono department. And of course, I think we've had a good cooperation with them. But for them to be paying market rates, to a platform and, like even much more than a freelancer charges, and was like, boy, if it's good enough for the doctor and the dentist and the lawyer to be giving their service for free, that should exist in our industry as well. So I think ProZ has played a role, if I'm going to toot our own horn, in popularizing the concept of pro bono within the language industry. And I think we should continue to reinforce that, just because it's about being a proper industry too. Yeah, 95 or 97% of the time, we're all working for money. I'm getting paid, you guys are getting paid, but 3% of the time, let's not forget there's people out there that need this. that the money isn't there and isn't going to be there.
Absolutely. And I have to say to volunteers as well that, you could go off on the weekend and put on some Wellington boots and go to the beach and pick up plastic. Or you could go down the local resource center and pack boxes to send off to Ukraine, for example. I mean, all of those things are very valid things to do. But I often say that anybody could do that. Anybody able-bodied or not even able-bodied, anybody in a wheelchair could go down to that center and do that kind of work. Whereas we have skills which are unique, which are very special and specialized. And I think if we have a chance to use those, even though it means, again, 2 more hours in front of the same screen as you've spent all day in front of, but you're bringing something which only you can bring. And I think that's a great combination of a need that's out there and a highly specialist skill. Like the same dentists who are at the center in Pittsburgh, they're not going off to walk puppies. They're doing teeth because that's what they can do. So I think it's
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're coming towards the end of our time today. Do you have any questions, Tanya or Henry?
What's your vision for the future? Where are you? Where is this headed? Where is it all headed?
My vision is constantly changing, and it's often surprised by events because people like the volunteers that we have, doing the video editing, and now we have a social media crew who are kind of knocking it out of the park, putting together really nice videos and stuff. So that's already, if I had a vision just 3 months ago to have a more active social media presence, that's already checked. And each time a vision is checked or a mission is checked, you kind of think, wow, I better look around. And each time you have people coming up underneath you in in an organization to take over roles which you were kind of doing. I was doing all of these roles at the beginning, project management to social media to communicating to mobilizing people. Now, still doing the mobilizing part, but a lot of that work has been taken over by very responsible, highly competent volunteers. It frees me up to put my head above the parapet a little bit and think what else is out there. So what's on the horizon coming down the track, I guess, is obviously growing the organization, more volunteers, more clients, but that's the predictable part, more words. I think serving the members of ProZ.com, that also goes without saying, and giving them more and more opportunities. But I'm beginning to think now, as I see the caliber of people with us and the amount that we're beginning to achieve, and not only with mom and pop NGOs started off out of a garage, and we have a few of those doing fantastic work. We have a couple from New England who went to Guatemala, saw that kids didn't know maths, and decided to set up a maths program, or math, as you'd say, and have been sending teachers for 10 years now, which is great. And that's the smallest scale. And then you have the Neighborhood Resilience Project, which you mentioned, operating in one town for one local but very diverse public. And then we go all the way up now to the United Nations. The United Nations in Argentina are using us, UNESCO in Portugal are using us, the International Rescue Committee stateswide are huge. So we've got these big clients. And as that begins to take form and begins to kind of consolidate, and now we're basically dealing with 120 clients, far more than I ever had to deal with as a freelancer or running an agency, I'm beginning to think, well, maybe there's a bigger role here. Maybe we could be talking about language with, I don't know, let's say the Ministry of Development in Ethiopia. If I go to these conferences, I've got conferences in Africa next year. I've got one I'm going to in China probably in November. Then there are others. There's one in Geneva, at which I'm not meeting translators anymore, but I'm meeting movers and shakers in the development world, people who are looking at strategic, systemic solutions. And I'm beginning to think and feeling more confident now about going and saying, well, yeah, I'm in this conversation, I'm the language person. How can we work together with you guys, not just to translate that text and this text, but to formulate some kind of policy? How can we begin to, this is, as I get more confident in the role of running a language agency, which is in many ways what this is, but also getting into, okay, how can I work with other partners more senior people. How can I learn from them? So my attention is more towards humanitarian conferences than the translation industry conferences, because that part I kind of know enough about at the moment after 15 years, whereas the humanitarian side, I'm kind of discovering, and I'm finding that opportunities are coming up or beginning to show their faces, which will lead us down paths that I don't even know what they are yet, but I know that they're there. And I know that in my personal history, I've never really been much of a planner beyond lunchtime. So things have always come up. People have always, I mean, this is one of the, I think when you're working, which I feel I am at the moment, in a kind of zone, then things manifest. I mean, that's a little bit Californian in terms of language, but people pop up out
True.
of nowhere. Out of nowhere. I mean, you might, we might have a different vocabulary for what forces it is that puts these people in your path. And there's also an argument about saying you might be walking along a path and you might, and I've said this to freelancers forever, you might actually not even notice the people who are there willing to help you on either side because you're tunnel vision, focusing on your own sorrow, for example. So I've always believed that there are people and opportunities all around. And the more open your eyes are, the more you can take advantage of them in the best possible way and help them help you. So basically, I think we have a bigger role. Don't quite know what it is yet, but I'm confident that when the time comes, it'll make itself known.
I'm pretty sure
Great.
that all the volunteers in the organization are experiencing that same expansion that you are on their individual levels.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the beauty of ProZ Pro Bono.
I get that kind of feedback actually quite a lot. I get people writing saying, this is amazing. I've made new friends. I've made new contacts. I've learned so much. We do feedback exercises now and again because I think it's very important to keep in touch. And we're in regular touch with, through WhatsApp and through all kinds of communication channels and through our open house, which is a meeting face to face like this, but with 20 people more or less every week. So we're keeping our finger in a way on the pulse of volunteer world. And again, that people pitching up every week at the same time just to meet other volunteers, it's taking them out of what some call a kind of isolation, which we all know is part and parcel of freelance life, or can be. So I think there's lots of personal, certainly professional, personal, developmental, even I would go as far as to say, listening to some people, spiritual benefits to being part of something bigger and something that's doing good.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Thank
I think
you for what you do.
Wow,
And
thank you.
That approach and yours, Tanya, thank you for agreeing to join the board. And this leading with that, open heart and mind and attentiveness rather than intent, I think is part of the reason that it's grown so well and been such a good experience for so many of our members.
Sure.
So I think I continue to feel it's membership money well spent. So thank you to the ProZ members, thank you to you guys, and
thank you for making it possible.
Absolutely, for the initiative in the first place. So it's great. So I believe now we're coming up to questions and answers. We've got about 15-20 minutes. So I'll hand over to the team back in the studio, as they say. Bye for now.
Well, that was Andrew, that was Tanya, and that was Henry. Thank you very much for the interview. It was incredible. Now give me 1 second so that I can bring them here so they can answer any questions you may have. Hi guys, can you hear me? That's great. Tanya, you're muted, so please. There we
Not
go.
anymore.
Not any- That's great. Well, we have a lot of questions, but I think like the main question that a lot of people may have is how to get started in ProZ Pro Bono, which is the very first steps, which are. Andrew, I cannot hear you. It's okay, it's okay. So one more minute, guys. No, no, still nothing.
That's what he gets for changing up his microphone in the middle of the show.
Yes, it is. No. What?
He said he's gonna leave and join back in.
Okay, okay, go ahead. So in the meantime, Tanya, let's try to answer. There he is. No, I cannot hear. We cannot hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, now?
Yes.
Yes, there we
Oh,
go.
okay,
Yes,
okay. Sorry about
great.
that, everyone.
No
High
worries.
tech, high tech approach. You buy all the expensive equipment, and it doesn't work on the day. I notice also that I'm less red today because that was a very hot day 2 weeks ago when we recorded this. So I'm just a shade of pink today, whereas I was a bit scarlet.
Did
Okay,
you
so
just admit that we recorded that?
did I just say
I would
that?
not have to put on my sweater?
Oh no!
Oh,
No, no, no. In fact, yeah, I've got the same shirt. I just realized. And
yeah.
anyway, sorry for that. So, how to join? Very easy. We have a website called prosprobono.world. And I saw somebody asking in the comments, why is it .word? It's not. It's .world. For the simple reason that if you go back a couple of steps, we have independent status as a non-profit organization in the US. And that status is called rather awkwardly 501 open brackets C close brackets open brackets 3 close brackets. So 501c3 status. And for various reasons, that gives us an incentive to have a separate website as well as being on the pros.com website. If we want to attract funds in the future, it's good for us to have an independent space and to attract clients from the wider world. So they come to our website. They'll also be able to find us on the pros.com website. We found that prosprobono.org, which would have been ideal, was taken. So we went prosprobono.world with an L in it. And on that website, you can easily find a section called Get Involved. And if you go to that page, there's click a button for translators to sign up. So on the website, you can see everything about what we do. But on that page, you simply click, you fill in a very simple form, then you join the project, and that kicks off a whole series of emails from us with guides which take you step by step through everything you need to know. And now, after 2 years, there is quite a lot to learn about the way we work and the processes and how these things, how jobs are announced, how they're distributed, how you get to work with a reviewer. So there's a few steps to learn, but everything is included in our guides, which are given to you the moment you click to join.
Yes, I will ask Daddy that if you can hear us, please handle the link about to the website to the people, so it will better for them to find it. And talking about clients, there was one comment asking about how do you choose the type of organization you work with, and what languages do you usually need to know?
So I didn't quite hear the question.
Yeah, so talking about clients, how do you choose? Do you choose the organizations that you work with? In which way?
Okay, well, in fact, at the very beginning, when we didn't have any clients, we were targeting clients within a number of humanitarian sectors because the humanitarian field is quite diverse. You've got people looking at health, you've obviously got the environment, you've got women and girls, you've got children and education, you've got refugees, international development, social conflict. For example, homeless people could come under our remit for humanitarian work, but that's not international. That could be people within a single city in the US or in the UK. So we went looking for clients in all of those sectors, and I wrote them email after email. And it's quite an interesting parallel with the freelance world in that none of those emails got responses. A bit like it took me back to being a translator at the very beginning of my career and trying to find new clients. That kind of cold emailing simply didn't work. For some reasons why, maybe because they were suspicious of an offer of free work, maybe because we had no clients at the time. And so we couldn't say, we work with these guys and these guys and these guys. We were just saying, hello, we're here. We didn't even have a website. We had a landing page. We saying, hello, we're here and we can help you. And people just looked away and didn't take up our offer. So maybe Tanya, you can, from a client's point of view, maybe you can add something to why people didn't respond to that genuine, open offer of help.
Well, I think for one, we're working with nonprofits, right? And so they are probably stripped as well for time, and a very limited amount of people doing things on the sidelines of their regular jobs, whatever, in many cases, not all of them, obviously, but they are nonprofits, so they have scarce resources internally as well. So evaluating a free offer when you get approached by an organization that at the time didn't even have nonprofit status yet, right? It took a long time for the paperwork to go through. That's just the nature of things. So there wasn't a lot of clout. And yeah, like you say, it's very much like a new freelancer starting out. You need to find that 1, 2, 3 projects or clients who really love what you do and who you click with, and then word of mouth starts taking place, and then you have something to tell the world, and put a different message out there compared to when you start out where you don't really have much to say except for, I'll translate for you, right? When you can start sharing success stories, things like that, that helps. And that parallel is absolutely 100% accurate. It's not so different from going and finding paid clients.
Sure. And very much like you said, we had 1 or 2 lucky breaks. There was a translator called Julia Bilby who put me onto a small team of scientists doing a very beautiful environmental film. And suddenly they needed subtitles in loads of languages. So that by that stage, we were maybe a month or 2 in, we'd gathered together some volunteers because I had a network, but they had little to do. And then suddenly we had this thing for everyone to do. And I was managing the whole thing at the time. But that gave us not only some words under our belt, but it gave us maybe a psychological lift too. And that was like a switch. And once that flicked, more clients began to come along. And today, rather than us choosing the clients choose us. So basically, they are finding us online. They are reaching out to us. And just today, I was talking to an organization that deals with survivors, not victims, but survivors of human trafficking, which might be sexual slavery. It might be people coming from, let's say, Afghanistan and being made to work on construction sites without the equipment or given terrible accommodation. So they found us and they said, can you work with us? And of course, the answer now, as long as they're non-profits, that's our number 1 criterion. So we have an organization that teaches football to young translators, to young people in Africa, and they use football as a vehicle for teamwork, for skills, for confidence, for leadership. So it's a beautiful project, but that's a far cry from people who've got no insurance in the States and need medical care, which in turn is a far cry from Afghan refugees arriving in Chicago, or from young kids, like I said, learning maths in Guatemala, or all the different projects that we have. There's one in the north east of the States, which looks after children who suffered abuse from parents or from people in their own home. So humanitarian work is a vast field. And basically, all of these clients now choose us. They come and find us. They find that it's completely free, which is a big USP. And I have a half an hour meeting with every single client. So I get to find out a little bit more about what they're doing, to test the waters a little bit, to explain to them what we're doing. And now it's almost always a perfect match. So they tell me what they need, I tell them what we do, and then we start working. And we very rarely now have to reach out to clients. Tanya.
I would also add to that, and maybe that's another parallel that we can draw to the commercial side of our industry. Many times these NGOs are so deep in their work that they don't look left and right. They might not even realize that they have a need for a translation, that would make their work easier. And then if they do realize they have a need for translation, maybe they're not always aware of what a good quality translation does. You know, a layman's translation is very different from a professional's translation because obviously we're professionals and we do it very differently. That's that point. So ProZ Pro Bono in that aspect can also kind of educate in that field, right? We're talking to a different economic player, if you will, compared to for-profit organizations. And then on the other hand, after we recorded our interview, I was thinking about all the reasons why somebody would want to join an organization like ProZ Pro Bono. I think it offers a layer of security because I'm sure that many people have been asked, just like, you know, photographers are asked to take pictures for exposure. You know, I'll give you a good rating on Yelp or whatever. In the same way, translators have been asked to do stuff for free, you know, be that paid work, not paid work, unpaid test translations, but also by organizations claiming that they are nonprofit, where in fact maybe they might not be. So if you do it through an organization like ours, there's a vetting process, and the chance of you getting exploited is close to zero because, you know, we take care of the translators in the same way that we take care of the clients. So I think that's an important point to make as well. Yeah, to do it with the help of others.
Coming back to one point you made, sorry about their awareness. Funnily enough, in the humanitarian sector, maybe clients are more aware of translation than in certain other sectors I come across. Maybe not of what is quality translation, but they come into contact every day with people who don't speak the language. So it's pretty much front of their mind. What they haven't been able to do so far is find their way to quality translation. So they've often relied on people within their own organizations who are themselves maybe refugees or victims, people who've emerged as leaders, but nevertheless have large families to look after, food to put on the table. And the last thing they need is 8 hours of translation when they're not even professional translators. So we're definitely meeting a need. Luana.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, yeah, you also mentioned something that I think it's really important because there was one comment mentioning that why it is unpaid. And all that you mentioned, I think it covers the main purpose of the organization and what it does, right?
I think so. I think that in every sector in life, there are volunteers who do good work. There are volunteers in churches, in hospitals, visiting old people. When I was a student, I volunteered and I learned sign language to go and speak to a deaf old man. I think there's something in all of us, or in many of us, that wants to volunteer time and take money, as Tanya said during the session, out of the equation. So as translators, we have a choice. Either we volunteer and we go and look after children at the local creche, or we give food, or we stand in a supermarket collecting.
Or we donate money
or we
that we
donate
worked for,
True.
right?
All
But
of
I
which-
think what we really need to emphasize again is we don't give out free translations to companies who will make money off of them. They don't turn a profit on it. The clients themselves are also nonprofit organizations. That is, like, as Andrew said earlier, that's the one criteria we have. So we shouldn't forget to mention that again.
That's
Yes.
important. It's the number one question on the form where the clients sign up on the same Get Involved page on our website is, are you a nonprofit? And there's a paragraph that says, if you're not, let's say goodbye right now because you're going to be wasting our time or we're going to be wasting yours. So that's the number one thing.
Mm-hmm. True, true. And have you ever said no to any organization because of any reason?
Not exactly no, but there are one or two organizations because let's say, without getting too political, there could be people who support
Mm-hmm.
an extreme political cause, but are nevertheless non-profit. Let's say there was an organization in country X which wanted to protect the white population against immigrants, and they were a non-profit. Now, technically, we should work with them, but there are ways without saying no of making our services less available. That's a judgment call, and it's one that kind of falls on my shoulders, but it's one I'm fairly comfortable to make. There's a huge number of things which are unambiguously good. We all want health. We all want education for children. We all want equal, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not all, but a lot of people want equal rights for girls and for women. But when we get into something which is politically more suspect,
Mm-hmm.
then I might kind of say, all right, we'll get back to you, and then maybe forget to get back to them.
It's good, good. And well, one question arises about membership. If it is necessary to be a member in order to volunteer.
Member of PROS?
Mm-hmm.
No. So as we all know, PROS has what we call internally members, who are those who pay, and users, who are those who have a profile but haven't taken out a year's membership, even though they should. And we say that anyone who's a PROS user can become a volunteer. You need to have a PROS profile. But so far, everyone who applies to our site to become a volunteer has a PROS profile. And if they don't, we say, look, go to pros.com, set up a profile. 20 minutes later, come back and see us again. But that's almost, I think we've had maybe one or two people. But no, you don't have to be a paying member. Paying members we're very grateful to because they essentially pay for the program through their subscription. But you don't have to be a member to join.
Yes, that's great. Thank you for making it clear. Let's find one more question. I saw one, but I lost it. Well, someone is asking about the recording. Yes, it will be available after we finish, of course. And what kind of languages do you need? Which you
Uh,
work with? Aha.
Well, we work in 108 languages. So, as you can imagine, some of those are very much in demand. French, Portuguese, Spanish are the major world languages in terms of distribution. Arabic is another big one. But then other languages we have which rise and fall depending on what's happening in the world. So, the languages of Afghanistan, Dari, and Pashto are in demand pretty much
Mm-hmm.
always. Somali has been a language we've been called upon for a lot. The languages of Ethiopia and Eritrea, some Indian languages. So basically, if you imagine the world the way it is today, there are people on the move for all kinds of reasons from all kinds of countries. Maybe for climate reasons, because there are large parts of Africa, as we speak, which are slowly becoming uninhabitable. Then you have conflicts or wars. Then you have economic crises in certain countries or political upheavals where there's suddenly a military coup. And that means people start fleeing. So whenever those people start fleeing, their language needs pop up in our crystal ball, and they become common now. They become more common. But we've had requests just this week for Finnish, for Hindi, for Bengali, for Turkish, for Wolof, which is the language of Senegal, for Amharic, the language of Ethiopia. So basically, if you've got a language and you're a translator, come and join us. We'll find a place for you somehow. We will find work for you in the not too distant future.
Awesome, thank you. And one more question, Tanya, why would you like to contribute as a new board member?
Well, maybe some of you know at ProZ.com, I am the program manager for the mentoring program, which will hopefully very soon get a overhaul. That combined with the fact that in the early days of my relationship with my partner, who is also a translator, he did a lot of work for Translators Without Borders for legal cases, where he would translate court documents. And I remember this one case where he had to translate a court transcript of a horrible case of domestic violence, and it really seriously weighed heavily on him. And I'm always thinking, when people have to deal with such things, which is why interpreters have my utmost respect, the ones that go to court and police stations and whatnot. I would like to see if we can set up something like a debriefing support group, whatever, for those volunteers who have to deal with emotionally or maybe mentally draining translations, so that they are taken care of, that they have a place where they can vent that out before they have to go home, even if it's in the home office, but before they go back to their families, and so that they don't have to carry that into their off time. Not sure, I haven't even talked to Andrew about this, so I'm totally springing this on him. But that's one area where I would like to contribute, to make sure that our volunteers are taken well care of in that respect.
Oh, that's great.
I'm
That's
totally
great.
up for that. I love having things sprung on me. That's one of the excitements of my life. So definitely, great idea. Let's go for that.
Awesome. And well, something else you would like to add before moving in?
No, it's just that I've got in 25 minutes a YouTube event
Yes.
where people can come
True.
and join that and ask questions too. I think you've already advertised that, Luana. So
Yeah.
anything I've got to say that I forget to say now, I'll say over there.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you very much for the Q&A session. I hope all the questions may have been answered. And if not, you can go to the YouTube Live. Tati, please share the link with the Andrew's YouTube channel so everyone can join him after the DB event. And well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Luana.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today and being here. As Andrew mentioned, please don't forget that the celebration doesn't end here. You will find a direct link in the comments that he will put. And do join Andrew on his live. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining us once again. I love you guys. See you the next time.
My name is Jasmina Georgievich, and I've been a ProZ member since 2009. During all these years, I've managed to broaden and expand my career in many different ways. I've acquired new skills, new techniques that I've learned from working with other colleagues, and I've had the opportunity to build new contacts, to broaden my network, and to work with various agencies. So obviously, being a member of ProZ brings a lot of benefits. And as a member, you have access to many different activities and trainings and other options available through ProZ. And I heartily recommend you join this very, very large community and experience all the benefits that the membership can bring you. So I highly recommend you join ProZ and experience for yourself. You will not regret it.
Hello, my name is João Paulo. I'm based on Fortaleza, Ceará, Brazil. Well, I'm very glad of being part of ProZ Network because it's been very rewarding, so financially and also professionally speaking. Well, I work with, I'm Brazilian native, so I work with Portuguese from Brazil, and I also work with English and Italian and Spanish and French, and I am a translator and an interpreter, so and I'm very keen on being of service to all of you, all the companies and all the colleagues making part of this huge network called ProZ.com. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Claudia Brower. I'm a veteran of the translation and interpreting industry. My language pair is English-Spanish, and I want to tell you what is so special about ProZ.com and its membership. And it's because you make community, you access training, you access job board, and a lot of important clients that are out there are getting their translators and interpreters through ProZ.com. You've got a large community of fellowships that can discuss the things that are going on today that you want to be a part of. And you have access to so much training. I mean, the training that's on ProZ.com is invaluable. And that includes, of course, my training. I'm not only a member, I'm also a trainer. And it's invaluable, the training that you can access. So you can connect with clients, you can expand your network, you can find job opportunities, you have the job board, you can showcase your skills, you can have forum, you have webinars. And it's really, really something that if you want to, improve upon your connections, because nowadays it's all about community connections, please think about what's best for you, and the ProZ.com membership is really important. I really would like to impress upon you that it's important for you to be part of a group of people with your same interests at hand. That's what calls my attention about ProZ.com, that they really have my best interests. I can access those things that really talk to my best interests.